evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I now want to call the Winton Woods Board of Education regular meeting to order. It is 6:30 p.m. on Monday, June 26, 2017. And I'd like to ask that our audience please turn their cell phones and any other electronic devices down, off, or vibrate. That would be greatly appreciated. And everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Seymour, would you please call our roll this evening?
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Present.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Present.
Mr. Birdie? Present. Mrs. Miranda?
Present. Our first item on our agenda this evening, as always, is our district honors, recognitions, gifts, and introductions. Mr. Superintendent, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and Board. First one, this is actually a May recognition, but the student didn't show, so we wanted to make sure that they had every opportunity to get recognized. So we'll keep coming back until we catch up with you. So I'd like for, is Taylin Howard here? All right. Taylin, if you hear me out there, we're going to try you in July. Okay. The Winton Woods Elementary School Art Gallery winners for May, Superintendent's Award is Naomi Stiggers. Naomi! So Naomi did an incredible piece. You want to tell a little bit about your artwork? Naomi says, I have so many incredible art pieces that I can't remember which $1 million art it was. So, way to go. All right. So, who inspires you to do the art?
Mostly my art.
Okay. And who did you bring with you tonight?
Stepmom.
Okay. It's time for a picture. I was hoping that she said one of you guys inspired her, but she gave credit to the art teacher.
It is what it is.
She's our art teacher. Congratulations. Chastity Zloba. Yes. Chastity's work was an honorable mention piece. You want to tell a little bit about it? Okay. So our kids are so artistic that they probably have like 50 and 60 entries, so they can't remember all the great artwork. All right? Way to go. So who inspires you? Art teacher? And who did you bring with you tonight? Okay, can we get a picture of mom and brother?
Little brothers. Little brothers is like,
Our next award is the Skyline Student Athlete of the Month. Is Isaac here? Okay. We'll wait on you, Isaac. All right. Skyline Teacher of the Month, Miss Nicole Sutherland. All right. Thank you for coming back from your cruise to be part of this experience. So I'm going to read a little bit about you. All right? Okay. Even though she's the teacher, Nicole Sutherland is always learning, and so are her students. Ms. Sutherland looks for opportunities to learn from other teachers and is a support and sounding board for the other teachers on our team, said Winton Woods Primary North Principal Kevin Jones. In the classroom, she's received excellent student academic growth while challenging herself and her students to always have a growth mindset. The second grade teacher was honored as the District Skyline Teacher of the Month at the May board meeting. While Ms. Sutherland has excellent rapport with her students and has created long relationships with other scholars and her family, academic results are important to her, said Jones. This year, 100% of her students met the MAP projected growth score. Whoa. And in 1 year, she closed the achievement gap by 18 points, taking her students from being 3.4 behind the national norms to 14.6 points above the norm. Wow. This year, Sutherland was named as both literacy and math team leader for second grade. She also is a member of the Winton Woods Primary North Building Leadership Team. Sutherland fellow teachers have noticed her positive approach to project-based learning, her emphasis on a growth mindset with her students, and the way she strives to teach every lesson with the end goal in mind. In just 2 short years at Winton Woods Primary North, Nicole Sutherland has done great things for our instructional team, her students, and our community, said Jones. To be nominated for the Skyline Teacher of the Month, teachers must demonstrate excellence in the classroom, motivation, leadership, creativity and imagination, dedication, and communication. The Skyline Teacher of the Month Award is sponsored by the Forest Park Skyline, a business partner of Winton Woods City Schools. Teachers honored receive a Skyline gift card. Thank you, Ms. Sutherland. Okay. I'm just amazed about these scores and how you move our students, so thank you. We really, really appreciate you. So can we give her another hand, please? Amazing. Okay, the next award is my cheat sheet. Second place student group project, Miss Karen Overmeyer, teacher, Miss Rachel Rizert, artists and residents who assisted in the project. Students were Travis Ace, Antiqua Bell, Kalia Ingram, Saishan Johnson, Ashley Lewis, Cardi Moss, Bole Podell, Jawan Robinson, Kira Stiggers, and James Fear Philpott. Are they all here?
Kyra's famous? Yeah. You are? Well, that's good. Kyra was one of the artists who worked on the project.
Okay, so tell a little bit about the project.
It was a collaboration. Rachel is a professional photographer, and she came to work with my digital photography class. And we actually worked in the darkroom, which was exciting because when you work so digitally, getting to actually touch your materials and see how chemical processes affect emulsion, I think is really exciting for the students.
And they were also able to combine digital photography and traditional photography into the final piece, which was a combination of all of their hands that connected to each other in kind of a large mural.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's really big, and everybody's got their own handprint in it. And it was a great collaboration because while the kids have their own pieces that are unique to them, it comes together kind of like a puzzle. Yeah. And they collaborated on titling it and arranging their hands and figuring out the total design. So it was really great because there's unique pieces to it that they can each take home with them, but there's also this great big end product.
So I'm going to go out on a limb.
Mm-hmm.
How nice was it to work with our kids?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I mean, I didn't just work with Karen's class, I worked with all the art classes, probably about 300 over the year. And
she met everybody.
Yeah. It was a good time.
So part of our responsibility in Winton Woods is trust, respect, and responsibility. And we do know that if our children treat adults well and adults treat them well, then we have more opportunities for them in the future. So thank you very much. All right, this is the Forest Park Environmental Art Contest. Thank you.
Like I'll hold one and she'll hold one.
Yeah.
Just hold a few. Hold a few.
Like a fan.
Okay.
So many awards, so many pictures.
Yeah, we're, no, I don't want to do that.
We should get Kyla's picture.
She's on her way now.
Oh, is she? Oh, shoot.
Yeah, let's bring her down.
We'll catch her. Remember, folks, these were the May winners. All right, so is Maddie Kelly here tonight? Okay. So Maddie's art piece was chosen for the Student Art Show at the Taft Museum and is on display at the Taft Museum this summer. Out of 77 artworks considered in the Artist Reaching Classroom program, hers was one of the select few, and that competition was absolutely fierce. So, thank you. We will definitely call Maddie back in July. All right. This next award is absolutely incredible. So, I'm going to recognize two young ladies, and they were inducted into the Miami University Honor Society. Their ages are 15 and 17, which is absolutely rare. So, Adversa Pretacito and Aliana Washam, please come up. Adversa Pretacito and Aliana Washam are among the youngest students to be inducted into Sigma Alpha Pi, the National Society of Leadership and Success, which is one of the largest national college leadership honor societies. Both girls are juniors in the College Credit Plus program at Winton Woods High School. Ohio College Credit Plus allows students to earn college and high school credits at the same time by taking college courses from community colleges or universities. Mr. Martin, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but how many students did we have in College Credit Plus last year?
This past school year?
Yes, sir.
For that.
This past?
I think we were around in the teens, 15,
Okay, and you anticipate this year?
30.
30. All right, fantastic. All right, when we get to 100, that's when I know we're doing it. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. 15 students took part in the induction ceremony at Miami University Hamilton on Thursday, May 11th. Students were selected for this honor based on academic standing and leadership potential. To be fully inducted, additional steps had to be completed during the semester. These included an orientation, a leadership training day, 3 speaker broadcast sessions, and 3 success networking team meetings. Students then had to answer questions about all of these events to show understanding and growth as leaders. In addition to the induction to Sigma Alpha Pi, Pretacito was selected as treasurer on the chapter's executive board. Winton Woods High School junior Aliana Washam and Adversa Pretacito are among the newest and youngest members of Sigma Alpha Pi Honor Society at Miami University Hamilton. Whoa. Okay, I know you brought people with you. So, parents, come up.
Your daughter's so cute. She's still from. You want to do a picture? Stop looking.
Yeah.
I said, yeah.
You want to do all the other trees?
Like, yeah, because then you look like a really nice mother.
Why don't you stand Here, no, picture. Come here. Come here, no.
There you go. Do you want to see a picture?
Okay, thank you very, very much.
No, I'm right here.
Got everyone?
That was quick.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Smith and the board for this recognition. I'm really enjoying my classes at Miami University, and I'm honored to be in the Honor Society. Thank you.
If the board agrees, I'd like to change our school colors to purple. Be really cool. All right, we are so proud of you.
Yeah.
Eliana, you want to say something? All right, very good. All right. So this next award, I think Dr. Johnson mentioned that I forgot a name, and I want to make sure that I did not. Jada Atkinson was third place with the Forest Park Environmental Art Contest. So is Jada here tonight? Okay.
Round of applause, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Stiggers, come on up. So, before you sit down, I want to just tell you, we already talked about you. We already gave you the scholarship and all the scholarship dollars, so you're aware. And there's a blue card that's all right? Okay? Is that all right? Okay, so have a good day. Thank you. Okay, special recognition. Oh, special recognition. I remember meeting this nice lady 4 years ago, and she told me something. She says, I have one job. My job is to make you look good. And I said, good luck. Good luck with that. And she says, Superintendent, I think that we have some great stories to tell, and I am going to make sure that I am writing those stories with fidelity and taking pictures along the way. She has done an incredible job. I do know that there's some special karma between us. Her phone number is actually my birthday, so that makes it really weird. So for people out there, do you want to know what her phone number? No, I won't. So Mrs. Teresa Cleary, come up. The Board of Education extends its deep appreciation to Mrs. Cleary, a longtime parent and community member who will be retiring from her position as the Winton City Schools publicity writer at the end of this month. Okay, we beat out every school in the region as far as stories because she is always looking for compelling stories that have truth, honesty, and dignity, and she writes with passion. Not one time did we have to go back and redact a story or take it out and say that it was the wrong information. She is very, very efficient, and we will miss her services. You have been incredible. Her phone number, no. It's time for you to say a few words.
I've had an absolute blast being a publicity writer for Winton City Schools. I started this job as a volunteer 20 years ago, and at the time I felt that there were some perceptions about this district that were false, and I wanted to reflect who we really were and tell that story. And I always tell people that I write the good news about Winton City Schools and that I have the best job because I get to brag about our kids. So it's been my privilege to do this for over 20 years in various capacities with the district. And I want to thank Mr. Smith for being a superintendent who values communication. And I want to say thanks to the team, Gina Burnett, Karina Denny, and Jeanette Jordan. We work really well together, and we are the cheerleaders for Winton City Schools. Oh, and new team member, board member, Mrs. Paula Kuhn.
Thank you for all the hard work.
So, thank you very much.
So, Madam President and Board, these are all the District Honors Recognitions, gifts, and introductions.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Congratulations again to our wonderful students. And Mrs. Cleary, thank you for your decades of service. We greatly appreciate you. Right now, we will take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back after that. Okay, we will now resume our regular board meeting. And seeing as that we have no public comments, instead of moving directly into our next item, which is the approval of minutes, we're going to move one of the items up from the bottom of our agenda, board colleagues, and Treasurer Seymour and Superintendent Smith. Our very own Mr. Lumpkin has had reconstructive knee surgery, and we'd like to get him out of here early tonight. So go ahead and come on up, sir, and we will do 9.05.
Madam President and Board, I had that same surgery 2 days ago, and I'm fine. So I'm not quite sure what the issues are, but maybe it's just...
You're younger.
Yeah, that's what it is, yes.
You're younger than I am.
And he's got superpower.
We have to talk about the resolution. You want to talk about the resolution first?
Yes. You want me to-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
okay. 9.05, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing 2017-18 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion or comments?
Yeah, and I'd also like to make one comment that while this organization does govern the leagues, and it's worth noting that we are not in a league, and I guess Mr. Lumpkin is going to talk to us about that. This district is not in a league, and this organization hasn't necessarily advocated for us on the behalf to become in a league. Now, I don't know if my research is exactly right. I might be off, but I think there's 7-team leagues within a 50-mile radius here that we could be a part of. There might be 8. Or there might be 6, but there's some that we could be a part of. And we do participate in the Ohio High School Athletic Association so that we can follow all of the parameters so that other teams will know that we are competitive both as students and as athletes, and that our students have met, the criteria. So I just wanted to put that out there and make that point, because some might say, well, why are we a part of this association and we're not part of a league? So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I wanted to also make a statement to Mr. Lumpkin, so I'm sorry. If you need to get a chair,
You're fine.
please feel free. But I just wanted to make a statement because it is public information, and our record should reflect our comments tonight that our school district has been suffering for years. This isn't like this just happened yesterday, that we have not been in an athletic league. We have exhausted all of our efforts. Mr. Lumpkin, Mr. Campbell before Mr. Lumpkin, Mr. Martin, our wonderful high school principal, and our wonderful superintendent, Anthony Smith. And they've given every possible effort they have and can give to this effort to get us back into a league. And for some reason, our colleagues, meaning our fellow school districts, and the Ohio High School Athletic Association provide absolutely no partnership in assisting us in this effort. If we are the only school district, I'll repeat that, the only school district, if we are in the state of Ohio, that is not in a league, this is an embarrassment for the great state of Ohio and an embarrassment for this association. What resources does this association provide to a district struggling to obtain entry into a league? And who is the authoritative body who steps in to remedy this and to help us get back into a league? We want to be able to provide the same types of opportunities to our students that every other high school can in our county and all of the surrounding counties, yet we still can't get into a league. So I just wanted to say that it's shameful and it's outrageous because we have to spend thousands upon thousands of taxpayers' dollars to transport our students to faraway schools because we can't play local schools here in our county. And this is not what we want to do with your dollars. And we don't want to have to send our children out of state into other counties far, far away to play when they can play their equals here in our very own county. So because of this and because of the obvious passion you can see behind my words tonight on this matter, I intend to vote against this resolution tonight because I would like to send a statement to the association and to any other authoritative body who can help us remedy this effort to try to get back into a league, because we've been missing opportunity after opportunity to be a playing equal of our fellow high school students in high schools, period.
Madam President, may I speak?
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
I echo your sentiments, and I feel the passion. I think that the opportunities for our children is imperative. I will vote for this membership because I do think it's important, because I think it's the foundation that will allow us to get into a league very, very soon. I think it's imperative that we use this opportunity to express the importance of being part of a league for our children, for those opportunities that can give them chances to shine and to attract the attention of colleges and to compete at the level of which they are very, very competent and very skilled at. I think we'll make a great partner in a league. We'll just bring the greatness out of a league should anybody be wise enough to incorporate us in. But I do agree that the strength of the governing board, the athletic board, the High School Athletic Association, I would hope would offer some assistance. I don't know if they've ever done that before, but this is really, it's leaving our children without opportunities, and that's a shame. Shame on a educational facility or a group or association that would neglect or deprive children that opportunity.
Any further comments or
Yeah.
discussion?
Madam President, I also just agree with everything that was said here, and I think the key is that we are totally dissatisfied with this situation in the Ohio Athletic Association and how they've really not stepped up to help this school district.
Madam President, if I might, I don't want this to just be about the athletic component of it, because we have musicians and we have cheerleaders and we have people in the flag. We have
Right.
other people, other young people. You can go to college because you were in a band. And if people can't see you, they can't hear you.
Right.
And I think that we have a broad stroke. We have a long way to go with this. But I think that Principal Martin and the athletic director, Lumpkin, have worked tirelessly to change some of the process of who we are. I think one of the major components, we added additional sports that most teams don't even have. We challenged our kids and we raised the GPA to a respectable level of a 2.5, where the Ohio High School Athletic Association says a 1.0 is acceptable. That's not acceptable for us. So for people to have conversations to say that we didn't want you in the league because of your academic standards, I think that Dr. Holden and her team have worked tirelessly to raise those standards. So we have eliminated all of the excuses, and I think it comes down to something else that people don't really want to recognize. Usually good teams want to play good teams. And so I applaud the efforts of the GCL. I applaud Moeller. I applaud LaSalle. I applaud Elder and any other GCL team, because they're saying competition is good competition. And our young men need to make sure that they're playing against the best. So we are never afraid to play.
And ladies.
Yeah, because we did have some kickers on the football team. Yes, we did. But I think it's very essential that people understand that this didn't happen. I think President Miranda said it eloquently. This didn't happen overnight. This was over a long stretch. So I think that the public needs to understand that the long stretch of making it happen, meaning that you were planning along the way prior to doing it. This wasn't just something where you did it in the flicker. So I do really still applaud our team for making the best and moving us in the right direction. But I do understand that there's a governing body that says, are you going to assist us with this? Because I think not being in a league does make a clear statement, and we need to make a clear statement to the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Mr. Lumpkin.
All right.
I have something I do want to add. I have to say that I believe that our administrative team has done an excellent job in trying to remedy this situation. I happen to be a parent when all of this went down with the athletic association. I remember the excuses about the academics, and given the fact that we have made very strong concerted efforts, and we're seeing the results. That's no longer an excuse. And for me, it comes down to equity. Are we treating Winton Woods City Schools equitable as we are with the other schools within the state? And also opportunities. This is not about, we want to play ball. This is about opportunities for our kids. So with that said, I intend to vote no.
Okay. I'm going to say I agree with some of the things that you have said, or most of the things, or I would say 99.9, except for the no votes. Voting no prevents our kids from playing in any tournament throughout the school year. And so we would just be playing games, and we would no longer have an opportunity to play for a champion. The only championships that we have an opportunity to play for right now is the championships of the sectionals or the districts or the regionals. If we had track kids that are going to go, and we had some track kids go to the regionals and the districts, they could no longer participate in that, and we would be taking away an opportunity for them. So I would disagree for that, because it would still put us in a situation to where now our kids don't have a league. They can't play in the tournament. They can't play for a championship. You're going to start to lose kids because they're going to start going to schools that have an opportunity to play on for state championships. And so when you have a competitive athletic program, that is something that you strive for to do. I am with you in regards of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. I firmly believe they have a lot of say in this in the way that schools do now. It's all predicated on football and making the football playoffs. Everyone wants to make the football playoffs, and if I lose, I don't get a chance to go to the playoffs. And so if I think you might beat me, okay, it means I don't want to play you, okay? And so because of that, everyone's trying to negotiate their schedules to be in a situation to where they have an opportunity to win. So if they think they can't win, they're not going to schedule a game with you. And so you've had that with the Molders and the GCL schools. They have to play out of state Catholic schools to finish their schedule. So because no one wants to compete. I'll say this: Winton Woods wants to compete, and our kids compete. I took over as athletic director approximately 2 years ago, and during that time we've had 3 votes to get into a league. One of the other difficult things in regards to getting into a league is that our recent one, the SWAC, it takes 6 schools to vote you yes. It's not a simple majority. So if 2 schools say no, then you can't get in. And there are a lot of leagues like that. If you're in the GMC, it's 11 schools or 9 of the 10 schools have to say yes. Or no, take that back. GMC, it has to be unanimous for you to get into the league. So if there's one school that says no, we don't want them in the league, they won't accept you in the league. In regards to the 7-team leagues, there are some 7-team leagues. However, some of those 7-team leagues are multiple divisions. So there might be 7 here and in a division, and in Columbus it's that way because they have the big school. But you have 7 here, you have 7 here, but they have crossover games with those other schools and those other 7s. Okay, I can tell you our first attempt that I had tried to get into a league was with Dayton Public and Cincinnati Public football, which they call the SWAC, and they had merged their football program, and I thought this was going to be an opportunity for me to try to get in on the football level because they were putting schools in according to ability. So they were taking the schools that were tougher and they were putting them in a division, and I thought this was going to work out for us. We had a couple of meetings with Cincinnati Public, myself and Eric Martin down at the Marison Academy, in regards to this. Once we met with Dayton Public, at that particular point in time, Dayton Public had voted unanimously with their schools for us to be in that situation. However, Cincinnati Public voted against it, and it was denied. At that time, I looked at getting into Cincinnati Public and Dayton Public, and actually, I tried to, because they used to be a one division where they played all sports together. And so I came up with some recommendations on how it can work, and the league kind of fell apart because of travel on weeknights. And so I presented to the Dayton Public School athletic directors in regards to how this could work. And I told them that you play your travel game, okay, on the Friday or the Saturday, and you play your local game. So if we had 6 teams from Cincinnati, they would play local during the week, and then they would have a travel game on the weekend, okay? I presented it for all sports. If it was baseball, softball, they had a Friday that they could play on, and they could play it on Saturday, or they could play a doubleheader on Saturday. So they thought that was pretty good. Where we ran into the problem was Cincinnati Public did not want to provide transportation, and that was the biggest issue, so that went down. So we had applied for Cincinnati Public, which is the Metro. One of the complaints, the major complaint that I kept hearing over and over from their district athletic director was, well, we offered you to come into the league several years ago, and you said no.
Not true.
Okay? And, and I told him at the time, I said, the same reason that they didn't accept us this time was for football, and we offered you that the last time that we would come in and keep football out, and you said everybody in, and now you want to say we don't want your football, or they say, well, if it's not football, we'll re-vote. But we ended up losing that vote. Okay?
Hold on a minute. Madam President and Board, the piece that the athletic director is giving, I think he's given it from his accurate description of what happened. But since I was at Cincinnati Public in that meeting, that's not the way it happened. They never got the opportunity. Winton City Schools never got the opportunity to really be part of it. It was already voted before the process could take place. And I don't mind going publicly to say it because I was there.
So you're saying there never was an offer?
The offer was made by Cincinnati Public Schools athletic director. However, that is not appropriate. It should have been made, the presentation, the Cincinnati Public Schools athletic director cannot make a presentation for Winton City Schools. He doesn't have the knowledge to do it or to talk about or articulate the vision of the sports about gate and about fans and about support. So that presentation was made by the Cincinnati Public Schools athletic director on behalf of Winton Woods. It had no chance of passing.
Followed up, after we got a no vote there, followed up with the City of Dayton athletic director in regards to an opportunity to be invited into their league. Myself and Mr. Martin drove to Dayton, presented to the board, executive team, as well as the athletic directors. Feedback that we got from the presentation was that it was outstanding. Okay. However, I think things were going in our way, and I believe the statement at one time someone said, well, you guys beat Elder. And that was the first time we had beaten Elder. And so, well, they're not down. They're still a powerhouse. And so the vote actually never came to a vote. Never came to a vote in Dayton. We moved on the year before with the SWAC, okay, which was with Mount Healthy, Northwest, Edgewood, Talawanda. They had invitations out for a league. They were trying to get 2 divisions. They had a total of 5 teams that had applied, and we were one of the 5 that was going to bring it to 12, I believe. I believe the other schools moved to different conferences, and it left us with the only one. They are a 7-team conference, okay? They are a conference that it requires 6 votes for you to be in. However, they had voted just not to expand at this particular time, okay? And that brings us up to now. What I've been doing since then is doing a lot of communication with the GWAC, which is north of here, north of Dayton, and talked to some of those teams. I've talked to the commissioner of the league, who has said that they do not want to come this far south. However, I do have, we are currently playing GWAC teams. We're playing Northmont. They're GWAC. They're on the other side, and they're coming to us. We play Springboro. They came to us. So we are playing the GWAC teams. I sent the lacrosse team, played at Beaver Creek, Centerville, played Miamisburg, and those are all GWAC teams, and most of their schools don't have lacrosse. And so when I reached out to some of the athletic directors, because I know they have an odd number with their big schools, I told them, well, Winton Woods would be interested in playing in the big school division. We don't mind playing Wayne. We don't mind playing Springfield. We don't mind playing those schools. We just want the opportunity to compete. And so a couple of those schools requested that I send the sports that we've had. And at that time, they had asked me, did we have lacrosse? I said, yes, we do. Matter of fact, called me and said, you got JV? I said, yes, we do. And so that's what I've been doing, is trying to build relationships there. We will play Trotwood game 1 in 18-19. Okay, next year in 18, Trotwood will come here. They are a GWAC school. So I'm trying to massage those relationships. We sent our girls volleyball to Xenia to play, and so we're just trying to build relationships that if something happens, that we can be there. Okay, so it's been a lot of work, okay, on our part. Trust me that every opportunity that I get, I talk to athletic directors. I ask them about their situations, to see if there's something. I know that there's going to be some movement in a year. There's going to be some movement in a year. Okay, the way that the Ohio High School Athletic Association has this, it's going to be like the NCAA and teams changing conferences for an opportunity to play for the national championship. Well, teams that don't compete in their leagues are going to change conferences to try to get in a conference to where they can compete and be in the playoffs. And it's going to depend on how good you are, if we might lose, okay? And that's it. When I took over, I think we had 9 games, and I can give you an example. There was a team out there we could have had. There was a local team that had week 5 open. They had week 5 open. Local team with 55 kids. They got 55 varsity players, just like we had about 55 varsity players. Decided they didn't want to play us. Okay? They ended up playing Doane Community School, who had 18 players. Okay? Opportunity not to lose. They won the game, beat the team badly, got some computer points. So it's all about, we don't want to lose. We want an opportunity to play in the playoffs, and if we think you might beat us. And unfortunately, our kids have suffered, and I agree with you 100%. But voting no tonight for this measure just puts us in a deeper hole. It makes our fight tougher.
I have a question for you. So does being part of the Ohio Athletic Association negatively impact your ability when those moves happen, or not being a part of the Ohio Athletic Association? Will that impact your ability to negotiate entrance into a league?
It might. Someone may use it. We've been in the business to trying to cut down reasons why people don't want us.
Yeah, and for me, it's not, you know,
It used
I
to be-
definitely don't want to
used
cut
to
down
be-
opportunities.
It used to be number of sports.
I definitely don't want to cut down on opportunities for our students.
Mhm.
But for me, you know, it's the principle of, you know, joining an organization that is not currently providing us any support in the efforts, and you all have gone above and beyond from back when Dr. Holden was the principal, and trying to negotiate this to get no movement is an issue for me as it relates to our children, because we want to tell our children that we value them. But yet, we want to be a part of an organization that is showing no value for the level of competitiveness that we bring, as well as the academic prowess that we are moving into the right direction and have achieved what we set out to achieve with our athletic department. So for me, I hear what you're saying. I don't want to act in a way that makes it worse, which is why I'm asking the question about you going to have partnerships and meetings and things like that. What's the risk of not being a part of the Ohio Association if they're not doing anything for us anyways?
Ms. Ruggles, before we move to that, I'd like to talk about, I mean, we're talking about the negative parts of it, which are actually facts, but I'd like to commend again, the principal and the athletic director and all of the people who support our children, because they know they're not in the league and they still come out.
Right.
And this is the effort of the adults saying, listen, it's all about your heart, it's all about your character, and they may not want you, but playing for Winton Woods is still an honorable thing to do.
Absolutely.
So it takes strong people to keep encouraging kids to do that, because they could easily transfer to a local place, which is, you know, right around the corner, but our kids are staying. So I'd like to just make sure that we give special recognition to the people who keep motivating them to do it.
Right.
Okay.
Can I make and maybe we can't make this happen, but as a board member, I'd be interested in hearing from someone at the Ohio High School Athletic Association as to why
Absolutely.
they think that this situation is okay. I mean, I would want to invite them to a board meeting and have them come and answer questions as to why they think this is okay. Why are they allowing this to happen, or why are they not stepping in to help us resolve this situation? Because apparently they've got reasons, and I'm not giving them any validity as to what their reasons are. But I would be interested in having somebody answer questions. I mean, you know, face to face. Tell us what the issues are. I mean, because if we can at least ask them,
I can invite them
to come to a meeting. And
hopefully, I could add a little bit more light, a little bit more clarity to the situation. Ms. Ruggles, to try to answer your question, if we chose to step away from the Ohio High School Athletic Association, it would do more damage to us. Ultimately, the ultimate goal is winning the state championship in anything that we compete in. That's where the membership to the Ohio High School Athletic Association lies. It doesn't lie in the league. So we're still in good standings to go down the path and try to win a state championship. We're talking about football. One of the issues with football, if we're not part of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, it does injure us even more, because schools won't play us because they get no Harbin points because we're not a member school, so they can't get points for beating us or us or our wins, because they get secondary points from the teams that we beat if they beat us. So it hurts us even more in that sense. And then just to bring a little bit more clarity in terms of Ohio High Schools Athletic Association's role. Now, they are an in-between. There should be an advocate for sportsmanship. They have no bearing on what happens in a league. And I equate it similar to a school board and the Ohio Department of Education, kind of the relationship.
Okay.
They can't make districts add a school into their league.
However, they can give you penalties if you violate the rules.
If you violate the rules, though. And right now, it doesn't feel good. We don't like it. Our kids are missing an opportunity, and we're kicking down doors, and we're having that conversation about it. But there hadn't been any rules violated. A lot of this is, and I'm not sure how much you guys know about the whole structure in terms of the athletic piece. A lot of this is the local board of controls. So we used to be a part of two leagues that make sense that we still should be a part of, which is formerly the FAVC. They sit right next to us. And it's those principal levels, those athletic directors, and at the superintendent level, they're making decisions to keep us out. So that's where the conversation is in terms of making a decision. So for example, even when Mr. Smith talked about when he was in Cincinnati Public and a presentation was made that Winton Woods wasn't there, but it was made on their behalf. That room of leadership, the administrators, they made the decision to say no. There was nobody from the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
And the reason
no one was there.
And the reason that Cincinnati Public voted no is because they said Winton Woods is too arrogant to even come to the meeting to present. They wouldn't give him the opportunity to. So they made a decision based on what they thought, based on perception. And since Winton Woods wasn't there, it's very unorthodox for you to present to a group of people you want to vote on something, and the people, the presentation is not even done by the people who want the vote. That's odd.
Yeah.
And at that time, Winton Woods was a great football program, great track program, all the essentials, and my colleague said, they're too arrogant, they didn't even come. They just assumed that we're going to say yes. And when I got here, that's when I realized, like, guys, why didn't you come? They're like, come to what? They didn't even know they were supposed to come because the meeting was held without their knowledge. And that's the truth.
And my last 2 points, and then I'll get out your way. The other thing is Ohio High School Athletic Association, they do provide some coverage insurance-wise. And you don't want to step away from, because let's face it,
yes,
sometimes there's unfortunate things happen that breaks our heart. And there's a coverage that's second to none for the young people who are competing in these different athletic events that I don't believe that we could shoulder on our own. And then the other thing that I would say, this is my last point, because David did a great job articulating the things that have been done, is that the 3 different leagues that we attempted to get in, we had support in those leagues. But if you remember what David said, in their bylaws, they've created it in such a way, 50-50, 60-40 doesn't get you in. It's either majority or 90% of the members to get you in, or higher. So it's kind of set up in a way that makes it real difficult for you to get in. So those were my only things. Now, hopefully that clarified a little bit.
So having the opportunity to work with Mr. Lumpkin, who I know is an incredible athletic director, and Mr. Martin was my athletic director in my other life, I'm going to tell you where my energy is. My energy is we're going to start our own league. We have to figure out how to do it, and I think we will do it with integrity, based on the sports and based on the GPA and based on all the stuff that we're doing academically with New Tech and PBL. There'll be people wanting to do it. We just have to find the right fit.
Yeah.
So we can't be afraid to start our own.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. That actually helped a lot in understanding what's at risk, what's the exposure of not getting into the league. Because bottom line is, I don't believe in paying for something if you're not going to support. However, I will say this, it is a great opportunity for us to survey our landscape and look at the partnerships that we can bring to the table that can support us in our effort. And I'd like to say that whatever, you need, or, I'm sure our my board colleagues would say, let us know what you need and what Mr. Smith needs for us to continue to support your efforts to bring opportunities to our kids.
Very good.
Yes, and I just wanted to say, and I'll be the last one to wrap this up so we can get moving on the vote here, but I hear you. I hear what you're saying, Mr. Lumpkin, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Martin. My vote tonight does not want to diminish any of those things we get from that association. But at this point, as the leader of this school district, as this governing entity is, I've said it before, we have exhausted all of our opportunities. If we don't say something in a different fashion or in a different manner, this won't be brought to light. And that's why I really appreciate that we're talking about it here on TV in the regular meeting, because we typically have these kind of conversations behind, in our work session, which is not closed to the public, so you can still come and hear those real conversations. But it's important that we bring it to the forefront here tonight, because this is something that this district has been struggling with for years. And it's not something we take lightly. And it's something that really needs a remedy sooner than later, because quite frankly, it's just an embarrassment, and it should be an embarrassment for OSHA to have to have one district in the entire state of Ohio that's not in a league. That, to me, is an embarrassment. So I don't know how Board Member Ruggles feels, but this board's intention was not to shoot this resolution down tonight. It's just our intention to make a statement with a few of our voices, and maybe one, more powerful voice than other. But we're trying to get there. We're trying to help you. And like Mrs. Ruggles said, help us help you. If there's something you need, let the superintendent know, and he can then let this board entity know, and we can do what we can to hopefully bring a remedy to this soon. So with that said, Mr. Seymour, would you please call the vote on the motion?
Sure. Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Nay. Motion passes with a 4-to-1 vote, and we will now go back to the beginning of our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Lumpkin, for staying with us this evening, and we wish you a speedy recovery. And let's go back to our approval of minutes as presented.
Madam President, I would like to motion to approve the minutes from the last two meetings.
Second?
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we will now move into 6.01. Mr. Treasurer, you have the floor.
Well, we're only 1 month away from closing the year, but our year-to-date revenues are pretty much finalized for the general fund at $47.8 million, and for the month it was basically just the state foundation and our homestead and rollback, and we're still running at a savings of approximately $3.7 million, as we pretty close to what we projected back in March. Our balance of all funds is $149 million, of which $20 million is the general fund, $65 million is bond retirement, $10 million for the building fund, and $50 million for classroom facilities. I guess that's a basic summary of where we're at right now.
Any
Next
questions?
month we'll summarize the year.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Any questions, comments for Mr. Seymour? All right, well, with no objections being heard, we'll let that financial report for the month of May 2017 be submitted to audit. And Mr. Seymour, back to you for 6.02.
For our investments for the month of May, we had $150 million invested, of which we earned interest of $80,700 for the month of May.
And board, a motion would be in order for this one.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the financial appropriation resolution fiscal year 2017 as presented.
Investments.
Investments.
Sorry.
Investments.
6.02.
Investments.
We're on
Randy jumped
02,
to
right?
7. Randy went to 7. Randy.
Oh, you went to 7.
6.01.
Ah,
Randy went to 7.
Investments.
okay.
Oh, we jumped.
That's all right. We'll take your jump ahead, Randy. You're just eager to get out of here.
Was that what you presented? Yeah, investment.
No, I did the investments. I did 7.01.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's what he did.
But you can.
That's okay. We'll do the motion for 7.01, and then we can wrap back around to 6.02.
All right.
Okay, let me do that again.
I'm sorry about that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the investment report as presented.
I'll second.
It's Been motioned and seconded. Any questions or discussion for Mr. Seymour? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Sure. Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And now we will go back to 6.02.
You probably wondered why for final appropriations we made interest, huh?
I was like,
Yes, final appropriations resolution for fiscal year 2017.
Before you have the final appropriations resolution for the end of the year, no tax, I've not adjusted anything for your local tax, anything for that includes real estate taxes. The only adjustments are basically state and federal funds, which we have to update before we close the year. So they and a couple of your local funds for athletics and activities. Most of the other funds are all still the same as originally adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Board, do I? Thank you.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the final appropriations resolution for fiscal year 2017 as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Sure. Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And last item for you tonight, Mr. Seymour, 6.03.
Is your temporary appropriations for next fiscal year, just to give me authority to spend money until I bring those final appropriations to you for your approval, most likely at the regular meeting in August.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the temporary appropriation resolution for fiscal year 2018 as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Sure. Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And Mr. Superintendent, we will turn to you for 8.01 since we've already done our investment report.
Yes, Madam President and Board, most of our activities are actually happening in two schools. The business managers worked it out where we don't have activities in all of the schools, which kind of saves our cost and cuts back on kilowatt hours and all these other great things. But I really would like to pay special attention to what's happening in the intermediate building. There's something that I think Ms. Gardner did that was essential to our work, and we lost her too soon. And her Envisions program is still actively moving in our district. And so we really appreciate that. We want people to be around our children who love them, who care about them, and who believe in them. And, you know, when people have to transition for whatever reasons, you know, are you still concerned enough to keep the love for the kids and keep them educated? So my major stress on the upcoming events is about the integrity of the Envisions program that is alive and well in the intermediate building.
Thank you. Board, any questions on any of the events or attachments for 8.01? All right, then we'll move right into 8.02 for the capital improvements report.
Capital improvement report. When Mr. Denny, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. While Mr. Denny is on his way up to the podium, one of the things that I'd like to mention, some of these improvements, many of these improvements, were based on safety and repairs, and these were things that were done prior to the bond passing. So these were things that we had to do, and I think Mr. Denny has worked diligently to find the best operational people, not just the best bids, but in addition to the best bid, the best quality people to make sure that our buildings were safe and secure for our children. So, Mr. Denny?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Just want to briefly review the capital improvement expenditure report for the last year. So you should have that before you. And you can basically see at some level of detail the different categories that were involved. These are all different key areas of our operations and plant that we track. And you can see there were a total of 131 projects tracked last year. That's a record for us. 80 of which, approximately, I think it was 78, were in July and August. So most of our capital work happens when the children aren't present,
Mhm.
and that's again for safety-related reasons and just the practicality of accomplishing the work in the most efficient manner. Because once the bond issue passes, it changes the landscape pretty drastically. It causes you to rethink some things that would have looked different in a 5-year planning forecast prior to that point, as you might imagine. So as are typical in a commercial operation of our size, we operate 11 different buildings on 10 properties. The number 1 and number 2 are almost always the same in every school system, and every large commercial enterprise, if you want to analyze it that way, and that's pavement and roofing are almost always number 1 and 2. And we're no exception to that. We have 12 acres of roofing. It's approximately 10 football fields worth of roofing, so that's a lot of substance to maintain. So that's why you can see it is the largest portion.
Flat roofs.
They're all flat, except for maybe one, yeah, which is something we would love to remedy going forward with a new building project, is at least have low slope, not zero slope roofs. But you can also see that vehicles was a significant area of purchase. Roofing accounted for 26% of our capital expenditure that we in the projects tracked. Paving accounted for 1/6 of the spending, and vehicles, 3 of which were buses, accounted for 14% of our spending. And then you can sort of see at a glance, the next page lists with some detail like where the projects took place, what buildings had that work, those 131 projects that were tracked, and how much was spent at each site. And finally, you should have as the last page of the report for your review, just the history going back to 1999. This process has been tracked for quite a while. None of those amounts are adjusted for 2016 dollars. I should probably do that at some point.
I don't think we have that attached.
You don't have a page 3?
No.
I always bring copies just in case. There you go.
Thank you.
Now you got page 3. My apologies. I didn't realize that didn't get uploaded.
You want to be looking at the graph.
Yeah, so the graph is the last page.
That's what we don't have.
And I was thinking that at some point I probably should adjust that for inflation and actually show what the spending was going back to 1999. I think a candy bar is a little cheaper than it is now. So I'll give you a second. But that shows the longitudinal spending of these types of projects over time in our school system. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have on the report.
I mean, but the key to the graph, though, is the reduction in 2018 is a plan. We have new buildings coming. We're only going to be doing things that are
Correct.
necessary from a safety and security standpoint.
That's exactly right.
So,
Yeah, we're going to make it work for 4 years. That 3 or 4 year fix looks a lot different than a 10-year fix or a 20-year fix. Right.
And I'd like to go ahead and get the motion on the floor, and then we'll
Yeah,
begin the
then I'll
discussion.
have some discussion. I do have a question. Let's see, where are we?
actually, it has, it's just information.
It's just information. I don't think we have a motion.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Information.
Awesome.
Okay,
No motion.
then I can ask a question.
Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
Okay. So I do understand that we are working to just keep the buildings safe and out of disrepair, but there's 2 areas on here where we do have furniture. Can you just explain to me what we're buying furniture for in the buildings?
Yeah, the biggest chunk is instructional furniture. We spent a fairly decent amount of money last year buying tables that are actually appropriate for project and problem-based learning. So they have casters on 2 sides. You know, they're mobile. They can be easily reconfigured in classroom setting.
Is that the high school?
It's at high school, middle school, and intermediate school. All the schools implementing new tech
Oh, okay.
receive tables to help support that mode of instruction. It is different. You don't want straight desks and rows and columns. So the biggest chunk of that furniture listed there was instructional.
Okay.
And they can go into the new schools.
Yeah, and the new furniture transfers into the new buildings
Okay,
too. So.
that was our follow-up
Yeah.
question.
Right.
You read
I
the
feel-
mind. I was like, so are we
I feel
taking
energy
this with
coming
us?
this way.
or-
Well, to be
Yes.
quite honest, and I'll be open with you, those tables, we've changed tables 3 times since the Race to the Top grant when AGS first started 7 years ago. Anybody that works at the high school can tell you we've had mixed results with these tables, so it's a learning process for us. And that same will be true going into the new buildings. I think we'll know more about what we need because we've had some experience with different products.
Any other questions for Mr. Denny? I just have,
Go ahead. No.
No, you go ahead.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, two of the buildings that we're doing repairs on are not buildings that we're actually using, I guess, that we're renting out. Can you just kind of talk to me about those a little bit? That would be referring to like the Kemper Heights facility and the Forest View facility.
I don't see, Forest View, it does appear at the bottom, but that's just a code to use for different years. There was actually, I don't believe we did any capital improvements at Forest View.
Okay.
It was all kind of lower level repairs. We're concerned about the roof at that facility, but it was basically just repair work. That building has a lot of concerns. But that building is largely used for storage, and there are 2 daycares that operate from there as well. Kemper Heights is actually a profit center for the district, but we are responsible by contract for the lease agreement to maintain all the capital plant. So roof, HVAC, sidewalks, pavement, and they're responsible for all the utilities. So we actually don't pay electric, water, gas, any of the utilities at that location, but we are expected to maintain it.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
So obviously
Sure.
the biggest expense at Kemper Heights was the roof.
Yes. Yeah, and that was 25-year. The roof lasted 25 years in that section. We've been replacing that building's roof over the last 3 years to eat the cost in smaller bites, I should say.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, I simply just have a comment, Mr. Denny or Superintendent Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
This report that has been provided to us in the past, at least since I've been on the board, usually came with a separate sheet or another attachment that said, you know, which company, which funds were going to, who was getting the contracts. I, for one, and hopefully my board colleagues as well, would like to see that too. So if you could get us a copy of
We
that,
can
doesn't have
arrange
to be
that.
tonight, but that would be great.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so since that was just informational, we'll go back to you, Superintendent, for 8.03.
Yes, Madam President and Board, Mr. Denny is going to talk about Policy 8500 and 8510 in conjunction with Ohio Revised Code 3313.814, which is certification of standards governing types of foods.
Thank you again, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Board. This is an annual ritual that is required under Ohio Revised Code, that local school boards examine the practices and essentially certify that we are in compliance with those requirements around child nutrition. And I can, and with confidence, assure you that having polled all the principals as well as our food service, our child nutrition director, that we are in compliance with all the a la carte requirements, meaning you can't walk up to a vending machine and buy a candy bar during the school day, those kinds of things. In addition, we comply with...
Here.
Right. No children assigned to this building. They're welcome.
That was a board's request, sir.
He means
We aim to
only in
please.
this building.
That's important. But essentially, we will have to, in turn, as a school system, report to the Board of Education that we advised you in public and that we could certify to the board that we are in compliance with all these legal requirements. So you should have before you a memo to that effect, assuring the board that our principals are reporting back that we're in full compliance with these requirements.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Do they ever come in and inspect to make sure that we're in compliance? I mean, I don't know. That's a question. I don't know.
The vending machine police have not shown up yet, but the Office of Child Nutrition at ODE does come every year.
Okay.
And to one degree or another, they conduct on-site audits or desk audits or both.
In the lunchrooms.
In the lunchrooms, in the buildings. And my guess is if they saw something out of line, we'd know about it because they enforce all those rules.
So they come like once a year, unannounced, kind of.
We had an unannounced summer inspection last week.
Oh, really?
Yes, for the summer lunch program, because that actually runs out of a separate program at the department. So,
And this one does not need a motion as well, right?
just a
Okay.
report.
All right. Any
Thank
further
you.
questions before we move into 8.04? All right. Mr. Denny, back to you.
Thank you, ma'am. And if I could have just a moment, I need to get the projector on and
Yes, sir.
slideshow up, and I'm going to dim the lights if that's okay.
Yes.
I won't. Okay.
While you're dimming the lights and getting ready, can you get us a candy bar?
That's a great request. We will go ahead and resume our meeting now. The technical difficulty is dealt with, and we have the presentation up on the screen. So, Mr. Denny, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, President Miranda. And my apologies. I'm sorry about that. It looks like we're in working order now. So I'm pleased to be able to provide a project update regarding the new construction of the two new school campuses that are coming to our community and our school system. Obviously, we're excited. I know the board's excited, the administrative team, our teachers, students. And I think we're excited about the impact it has for the whole community, not just the schools and the students and the teachers, which is substantial, and the families, but the entire community. It's truly the biggest thing that's happened around here in a long, long time. So I'll go rather quickly. Please feel free to stop me along the way. There's also a Q&A portion at the end where you can ask more questions if you'd like to do that. So I will go fairly quickly just for the sake of time. But we're going to touch on the three major aspects of any project, which is scope, cost, and schedule. And then we'll have a Q&A session, as I mentioned. And I like to look at this picture and just have that as a little remember of why. This is why we're doing this. There's 4 little warriors right there, and that's the reason. All right, again, a reminder. And here's the first part, which is the scope of the project. So we'll touch on different things in this piece about what is the project and what are the aims of the project. So the first piece is we conducted 37 meetings over the space of about 3 years to complete the school master plan, the facility master plan that was filed with the state and that this board approved. So those were the values that emerged from that process of all those different community meetings, stakeholder groups, focus groups, et cetera. Having 21st century facilities, preparing our kids to compete not only against students in Indiana, but students in India, across the world. Empowering our community to be able to compete on a global scale because our students are competitive. Collaborative spaces in the schools that invite the community in, celebrating the arts, celebrating diversity, being sustainable, green, and lean and mean was one of the comments made, that we need to be very efficient in the way our buildings run. That's why we have 2 campuses and not more than that, because that's about as efficient as we could make it. Facilities that reflect a commitment to education and in this idea that I'd like to live there when people visit. And also there's abbreviations at the bottom, so if we get lost in acronyms, you can look at the bottom, and hopefully I've translated those, because we're about as bad as the military, honestly, when it comes to using acronyms. Educational visioning. We've conducted educational visioning twice. We first vetted this with students as a large part of it, community members in 2012, and we have then come back and revisited that vision once we knew the bond passed, because a lot of things have evolved and changed in 5 years. And we wanted to make sure that what we thought then was on target for what we see going forward. These are the key salient points that came out of the visioning: that all students will show excellence, that there's a global citizenship aspect to what we do and how our kids perform and how they're taught and how we teach as teachers, that there's community connections, that our kids understand giving back and our community understands the power of being involved with students. And this idea, again, of celebrating diversity. We are one of the most diverse districts in the state in just about every sense you can think of. And celebrating that is worthwhile and meaningful. Having outlets for creative expression, which I would say would even include athletics, which we heard a lot about tonight, but certainly the arts, writing, academic expression, teaching expression. This has a lot of different aspects to it, academic freedom, if you will. And then finally, this idea of being transparent and accountable, that we'll use assessment to monitor, and then we'll in turn be transparent with the people, our students and our community and our staff. And the big question we really framed up in both visioning exercises what would these things look like in our school facilities if we really meant it? And we think that, we'll touch on that a slide right after this, but we think that we've captured some of that. In addition to what changed between 12 and 17 is this aspect of being a new tech district and really embracing that. This idea of teaching that engages kids and captures kids' interests, culture that empowers the students and the staff, technology that enables, and outcomes that matter, paying attention to those things. And so there's our time frame for rollout as well. So new tech came in between 12 and 17, and it also is manifested in what would it look like if we really meant it. We think it would look like these things, and there's probably others, but these were the large points. And these have been vetted by students, staff, community, our leadership team, architects, and they're things that we really would like to see in the new buildings. So number one is empowering real learning, and we think PBL is all about relevance and rigor. and that captures kids and helps them understand the why of what they're doing. Collaboration, being flexible. Again, look how much has changed in 5 years. It's conceivable that the next 5 years will hold change as well, and the next 50 certainly will. So we want our facilities to be able to respond to that. Tech should be like air. There needs to be lots of power and lots of tech, so you don't even really notice it. It's just there, and unlike tonight, for me, it actually works. That'd be optimal. Including community spaces, again, creating a small school field. These are very large buildings, again, to be efficient, but we want them to feel like small environments for the kids and the staff. Exhibiting transparency, leveraging maximum daylighting, maximum natural light, both from a productivity standpoint as well as an energy efficiency piece. Fostering creativity and fostering the arts, having breakout learning spaces so that learning doesn't always look like a classroom. Learning can be spontaneous and organic, and it can live in the building. And being green, of course, and saving taxpayer dollars, being efficient. We want to touch base when we're talking about scope on enrollment, because this is something we really are paying attention to closely, and the state is with us on this. They are also going to be watching us. We're going to go back in October and redo our enrollment projections, because the cost of the buildings is actually based on these numbers. So in 2014, looking at the 10-year previous years, the state basically projected out the next 10. And they said in 2022, 2023, we think you're going to have those numbers of kids. I think we're going to have 3,515 students in pre-K-12. And you see the projection for the new buildings. Well, you can see below that part of the reason we're paying a lot of attention to this number is we're already at 3,800, and the new buildings haven't opened. So that's something we want to watch carefully. But this is a big part of the scope of the project. So we're going to continue to monitor this closely. Even when shovels start going into the ground, we're going to keep watching this, because there may be things we can do to be creative and make sure that we can solve this issue. This is a problem. It's a nice problem to have, but it's still something we want to pay attention to. This is a really dense page. I apologize for this, but hopefully you have it at your leisure to review this later. This is kind of everything you ever wanted to know about these two campuses. This was supplied to our architectural firms during their interviews and the selection process. It was also supplied to the construction manager firms, because it's kind of the bare essentials. Achieving LEED Platinum, for example. LEED Silver is a mandate from the state because we're a co-funded project. Having multiple gyms, the square footages, the total cost, the co-funded cost, all of these kinds of things. And we'll touch more on cost later when we get into that part of the presentation. But this idea of approximately 300 students per grade and so forth and so on. And we've chosen the construction manager at-risk delivery method. There are 4 you can choose from. We've chosen that one because we think it's going to yield the best results for our buildings. Again, talking scope, this is the where. We spent a little time talking about the what. This is the where. This is the middle school location at 147 Farragut Road. The current middle school is shown. Right there is the current building. There's the track. The entryway is here. This is what we've deemed to be the most optimal location. And we believe that this is the best place to build unless soil samples or other factors interfere and tell us otherwise. It captures a lot of natural connection to nature. It also gives good site access. For development, it's not going to cost a ton of money to develop, we don't think. This site, it was a front runner, but it's actually has some downsides that this site does not have.
Yeah, one of the downsides, it's too close to the operational, mandates of the educational system, meaning it will distract kids. Middle schoolers are distracted by birth, so that just enhances it. So I think Mr. Denny has worked diligently to move site number 2 as the reasonable site. Sorry, sir.
No, I jump in anytime. It's part of it is this is a significant operational corridor for that school. That's deliveries come in here for food service every day. There's a lot of parking along here. This lot would be impacted. The entry from the construction site is probably there off the main drive. Just less ideal from an operational standpoint. We still need to live and occupy this building safely for the next 4 years. Next one is the proposed 712 building location. You can see basically it's very close to where we're sitting right now. Whoops, that
It's on top of us.
got to.
Literally.
It actually is.
That's us right.
We've had renderings of the site from 2 different architects. Both of them show needing the space we're in. which will be an interesting thing to discuss going forward. Project cost, we talked about scope, now we'll move to cost. Again, a reminder of why, the significant why. Cost summary, the K6 is a $43 million building, and you can see the state share and the Winton Woods share. That's the square footage, so this is what that money is buying. Very large, very efficient building with LEED Platinum as a goal. And this is the demolition cost for that building, which we will have to have that space in order to meet building code, fire code, even safety requirements for line of sight and those kinds of things. The 712 campus is about 240,000 square feet-ish, $51 million building. You can see the state share, 25 million, our share, 26. And then the demolition cost for reclaiming the territory where the building currently is, again, for the same reasons. Total cost of the project appears down here. The term LFI is defined there, locally funded initiative. We'll touch on that in just a moment. The LFI is a little over 10 million, and there is the total project cost. So what is the LFI? The LFI are these things. The facility master plan, again, we referred to that earlier in the scope, identifies the following items: $3.2 million for a new auditorium at the 712 building, $2.4 million for material upgrades, additional building square footage, additional educational spaces. Remember the enrollment piece. That's, again, something we want to watch. But there is a pot of money there that we can access if we need to, but we have to be very diligent on that. Budget contingency and help in achieving LEED, energy efficiencies, and so forth. So LEED Platinum, again, being a very aggressive goal. There are very few schools in the state that have done that, and we would like to join their ranks. Separate to but related to funding is this idea of a preschool village, which will not only help, we think, as a safety valve, but grow our programming from the bottom up. There are 300 kids in a class in Winton Woods, roughly, right now. There's probably 300 preschoolers out there. They're just not all in our buildings. But when you equate the fact that there's 100 kids in preschool right now with over 100 on the waiting list, we could fill up to 200 tomorrow if we had the space, which we don't have right now. And that's unfortunate because that's an equity issue for kids. It really levels the playing field, getting those early educational opportunities. So project schedule, we talked about scope, cost. Here's the schedule piece. A little dense, I apologize for all the wording, but I just wanted you to be able to see kind of where we've been. Whoops, there I go, getting carried away again. Sorry about that. Where we've been. So when the bond issue passed in 16, these are all the things that have taken place since then. The state had to approve their share. We had to rate bonds and sell notes. We had to sell the bonds, which Mr. Smith and Mr. Seymour took care of along with bond counsel. The controlling board had to allocate the dollars. So you can see kind of all this going on in the background. We have so far selected a building commissioning firm. This is the firm that says the building operates the way it's designed to operate from a building envelope standpoint, as well as HVAC and systems like that, mechanical, electrical, MEP, plumbing. We've selected an architectural firm, but you can see a lot of these contracts are still under negotiation, and the state has a very key role in that. We're working on selection for the construction manager company. We have shortlisted down to 3, and their proposals are in. We're evaluating those now, and we plan on interviewing them on July 10th. And the design process really is kicking off this month. And again, there's some acronyms if you're curious. Where are we going? So that's all where we've been. Well, we're into July. We're going to select, and as I mentioned, we're going to interview and select the construction manager firm, the firm that will actually build these 2 facilities. The design steering team is going to convene. I had July. It's actually this week they're going to convene. So we want to make sure we stay on schedule. Holding the Eco Charrette, which is a sort of I guess it's a French design term that has to do with throwing about a lot of ideas and seeing what sticks. Because we're going to begin. That's all about the greenness of the building and achieving LEED and those kinds of things. Reconvening the campus design teams. Those met during our visioning process. We're going to pull them back together in September with the leadership of our architect. All right, here's the real news. We hope to start early site work in June of 18. We want to get this 712 building ahead of schedule if we can. And we're hearing early feedback from our architect as well as the construction management firms that are involved that this is probably possible. So we're going to go ahead and say that this is what we'd like to do so that 712 gets slightly ahead so that we can move the 7th, 8th graders out of the current building down there at the middle school and demo that building while they're up here safely in this classroom, in these classes, these brand new this brand new building and these classes. Beginning construction of the K-6 January of 19, and then finishing the 7-12 June of 2020, finishing construction of K-6 December 2020. Hopefully achieving a move-in over spring break of 2021. And if you're a graduating senior, you might like that. If you're a sixth grader moving into that campus, you might like that. Being a part of the new building that you thought maybe you couldn't get into because of your grade level. 2021 demolition begins based on this board's land use plan. What will we do with the excess properties? That's certainly dialogue that's coming. Design process may feel like this. Hopefully this presentation doesn't, but the design process definitely feels like that until you get to an actual solution. So right now we're in this part. We're sorting a lot of things out. There's a lot of movement in the background, but we will eventually get to where we're visible and things are moving and people will actually see shovels in the ground and that kind of thing. This is a team-based process, the design of the buildings. So there's a core team that drives the work, and you can see on that side who's on that team and what their responsibilities are on the right side. On the left side is who, and the right side is the what. And then there's a design steering team we've alluded to. This is an intermediate group that is going to supply a lot of expertise and knowledge to advise the core team. And you can see the composition there again, and then what they're responsible for. And then finally, at the bottom of this design process is where the real input piece occurs. These are about 60 people each. So there's 120 people assigned to these two teams. Teachers, students, business partners, community members, parents, administrative folks, board members. They're all assigned to provide input into this process. And apart from this, there's a lot of other meetings planned. This is what the actual project overview looks like. So when you talk about design, we're right here in June, right at the beginning of the K-6 7-12 design process. That will extend until December of 18. Again, trying to start that early site package, starting on some things that we can begin on the 7-12 building and then moving into full-scale construction later. Here's the move-in. We hope it's in June, July, August of 2020. And then you can see the K-6 construction beginning in January of 19, rolling until December of 20. That's right. Rolling until December of 2020. It's basically 2 full years, 24 months. And a spring break move in here. Yes, sir. And then the abatement and demo work would begin here, knowing that there will be some abatement and demo right here of the 7-8 to make room for the parking, the green space, the play space, the recess areas, the line of sight, safe areas, all of those kinds of things, parking.
The board, my research in moving into buildings, teachers and administrators do not like giving up winter break to do it, and it is a mess trying to move in to a facility during winter break because of what you kind of drudge into the school. The other thing is spring break. People are thrilled to give up a spring break before move-in. It's been proven all over the country that that's ideal.
Winter break, not so much, right? Bigger challenge. So this piece fits inside this design schedule appears next. So this is kind of a detail of that period on that larger overview. And again, the steering team work, some of the construction documentation processes are here, early site package as shown, campus design team work, and then these at the bottom are something I think, the department teams, so certainly all the different departments, science, math, at all the schools, including athletics, fine arts, and then community forums here at the bottom, where we'll have opportunities for the community to see what's happening, and we can update them, perhaps in a similar fashion to what's happening here, but also give them an opportunity to have voice into the process and give us feedback. That concludes my presentation on the update of where we are with new campus construction, scope, cost, schedule, and I'm curious what questions you might have at this time.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Denny. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Madam President, I have a couple questions. Will the presentation be available online on our website? And also, would you be able to provide the board with a copy of the presentation?
Yes. I happen to have that one
Okay,
with
I
me.
thought you might have that handy. But I think it's really important for our community to know what's underway and that the result of the hard work and the efforts that go on behind the scenes to do the process in the right way. I think it's important that our community knows that all of the due diligence is being conducted. So, yeah, the main thing was to get this out into the community as well, because
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
they're really keenly interested. They, they don't realize all the work that goes into starting before the shovel goes into the ground. There's a lot of pre-work to do it right. So I think that they would be well served to know the hard work and the efforts that you put forth in the administration and superintendent and the treasurer, and those are all important components, and that you've done good work with their money.
Yeah, thank you.
mhm.
And as Mr. Smith said, yes and yes. I mean, we'll make sure that it's out, and we'll continue to push out updates that are not as intense as this, but are sort of web-based and also on the website.
As well as the level of oversight that the state has.
Right.
That a lot of times, even as a board member, I was like, okay, so what's happening? But to know that there's a lot of oversight that you all have to jump through in
Yes.
order to move the project. There's a lot forward. There's a lot of checks and balances, which is great. But one of the things in your presentation that and I know I've heard you say it before, might be good to revisit, because some people may think that perhaps it was poor planning, but why do we have 35, the buildings are set at 3515, and now we have 3,800? It's a great problem to have, but maybe elaborate a little bit more about the boom in enrollment.
I think there are two parts to that, and I think that's no pun intended, that's a good catch. I think that I think one of the pieces that we have to go back, what can I say, Dr. Johnson?
Nothing.
I think one of the pieces we have to remember, preschool wasn't in the formula and
Right.
all-day kindergarten didn't exist.
Exactly.
That has changed the whole process. And I think when Mr. Denny mentioned 300 seats, we are very, very specific about 300 preschoolers because that's what our classes will look like.
Right.
Okay? And when you look at the teaching and learning component, that's the amount of kids that Dr. Holden and her team can handle working on project-based learning. So it's all very, very specific. Nothing is accidental. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I only want to make one point, is that I think that this is absolutely wonderful, and I do look forward to it being on our website. I love the timelines. I love the explanation of the dollars. I mean, I can follow it. Anybody can follow it. I mean, it's easy to follow, and I appreciate that. I look forward to continuing to get these kind of updates, because I think it does kind of let people know where we are, what we're doing, and you can see from month to month something is being done. And like what my colleague said, that not necessarily, we don't have all of the control. There's the OFCC that we have to appease, and they make some decisions that maybe we will or will not agree with, but because they're half into the project, that they make some decisions for us. But I really appreciate this. This is good information. And one little shout out with the about the preschool and the pre-K, how that wasn't part of the original equation. Our preschool is going to be second to none. I mean, we're going to have certified, qualified teachers teaching. I mean, it's not just somebody's, I mean, it's okay to send the kid to grandmas and to aunties, but these are going to be certified teachers, and this is going to be big. I mean, a house is built from the foundation up. Absolutely. And so when you get that going, it's going to be, really a good thing. I'm really excited about that. 3 years right now seems like a long time. 3 years is not that far away, people. And so I look forward to watching the whole process. I'm really excited about it.
Same here.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
My
think it's
pleasure.
worth being notated too, since we're talking about those enrollment numbers, is that formula was very complex, and we didn't necessarily come up with that number.
Right,
OFCC
right.
did.
OFCC
And so yes, it is a good problem to have, but we have to constantly keep our partner in check to make sure we're doing what we need to do from our end, saying, you might want to look at this. Ding, ding, ding. We have more students than that now. So I appreciate the team's effort. And even for Mr. Denny, I think you're rightfully so our advocate and point person on data. And if that's a complex formula for you, then it's a complex formula for anybody. So it's interesting to see how that number came to be.
I had one other question. Will the track at the current middle school location be able to be kept, or what would that site look like?
We have seen some early sketch renderings, site renderings that show it being back like in a better, improved form.
Because I know that's utilized a lot by the community in the
Yes.
area, and I think it's a great way. It's another field athletic opportunity for children at the pre-K through 6th grade building, too.
Absolutely.
I think you make a great point, Ms. Kuhn, because the original site of one, the field has to be, it's on the field. So we would have had to put the field somewhere else. And then what that does is it actually challenges your middle school athletics. And we don't want to do that.
All right. Any further questions, comments, concerns?
Just one last comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it is a great problem to have with the enrollment, but I think it's important that we also mention that our preschool program is 5-star. That is huge. I come from preschool, so when I heard that it's a 5-star, that's amazing. That's going to be a definite blessing to our community.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
We're
Mr.
pleased.
Denny.
Thank you,
We
Board.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'll move into 9.01. Mr. Superintendent, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President and Board, the recommendation is to approve the personnel schedules as presented, resignations and retirement, which is Schedule A, certificated staff, Schedule B, Schedule C, support staff, Schedule D, extra duty and supplemental employment, and finally, Schedule E, leaves.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll move into 9.02. Mr. Superintendent.
Recommendation is to approve revised policy 4120, classified staff, employment of classified staff as presented.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion to accept to approve the revised policy 4120 regarding classified staff, employment of classified staff as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and now for 9.03.
9.03 is the recommendation, Madam President and Board, is to approve policy 4120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular, extracurricular activities.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve revised policy PO 4120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular, extracurricular activities as presented.
Second.
Easy for me to say.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we will move into 9.04, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, and finally, Madam President and Board, is the recommendations to approve the revised policy 6320, finances, purchases as presented.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion to approve the revised policy 6320 regarding finances, purchases as presented.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And now we will move into our Board of Education reports. First up is the legislative report. Board members, you have in front of you your copy of the OSBA briefcase, and I'll let you read through that on your own time. What I've also included for you, since this has been the bulk of what's going on up in the State House, is the biennial budget update, as well as all of the changes that were made to the amended House Bill 49. So you can see in the page that says budget update, they're giving you a timeline of what has happened over the past month and the certain representatives in the House and the senators who are working on the final budget. Their deadline is by June 30th, so here in a couple days, we'll see what happens. And then the second attachment with all the bullet points on there are all of the changes that were made and put into the amended version of HB 49. So again, I won't go through all of these one by one, but there are some very, very interesting ones in here. So take a look at that, and I'll bring you some more information hopefully next month in the legislative report if we see what happens on the 30th. And with that, Mr. Birdie, we'll turn to you for the Great Oaks report.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of pieces of paper that I gave to everybody. One of the spotlight on students through the Great Oaks system. We did have Cameron Vaughn, one of our students, senior recognition ceremony keynote speaker, recently. So thought that was very impressive. And then the rest of it is just some of the proposed opportunities for the class of 2018 as far as alternate graduation requirements. And most of this is geared towards the career and technical education side of things. So.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. All right, next up are board motions. I don't believe we have any motions or recommendations this evening. So we'll just move right along into the comments from our board members. Mr. Birdie, any comments from you tonight, sir?
Not really. We look forward to the new buildings and hope all the students and staff and have a great summer.
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. Mrs. Kuhn?
Share the same sentiments, and I appreciate the important information that came out both on the athletics and on the building construction and what's going on behind the scenes for your school district. So that's truly important that we're transparent, that we have that dialogue and we engage the community in that important business of educating our children and all the opportunities that we can present for our community.
Thank you, Mrs. Kuhn. Dr. Johnson?
No comments, just say have a happy and safe summer. Hope everybody's having a safe summer. So.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Mrs. Ruggles?
Yes, I'm just really happy to see the number of summer programs that we continue to have in force within the district to be able to provide students with academic enrichment, intervention, and reduce that summer learning loss. And Mr. Smith alluded to it a little bit earlier that, I'm extremely sad to see a very close friend and colleague, Cheryl McConney, pass. She's done her organization, Envision Children, has done an amazing job with supporting the students in our district. And it's operating in Winton Woods Intermediate School, which is a great opportunity because we have our free lunch program there. So I'm looking forward to volunteering there and also serving the kids of our community 18 and under lunch. And just continuing to work on building strategic partnerships within the community to help bring people to the table to support the students of of Winton Woods. Mr. Smith and I have had a couple conversations with the president of Mercy, and we're looking to re-engage them, as well as some have had some individuals reach out, a local daycare that reached out that wanted to learn more about project-based learning, which is a great opportunity to engage the students who are going to local daycares and preschools and making sure that some of those partners understand where we're going so they can partner and get aligned with what it is that we're doing. And lastly, the athletics, I can't reiterate, I want to reiterate again that we're here to support efforts to get us back into a league. So Mr. Smith and your staff, anything that you all need, just know that I know that this is a priority for this board, so we're looking forward to engaging on that more.
Thank you, Mrs. Ruggless. This evening, for my comments, I just want to talk a little bit about something that has happened over the past week and bring light to that fact. So it's been brought to this board's attention, as well as our administration, that this board is currently being sued by an organization that calls themselves COAST, or the Coalition Opposed to Additional Spending and Taxes. They're suing this board on the basis of not being descriptive enough as to why we enter into executive or closed sessions. Each time this board enters into closed sessions, however, we have always been according to law and descriptive of the 8 reasons for which we can go into an executive or closed session based on the Ohio Revised Code. I wanted to use my comments this evening just to kind of bring light to some very interesting facts that I found doing my research on this coalition, and some very interesting anomalies about this coalition. So first and foremost, this coalition is made up of normal folks just like you and I. These folks like to bring legal action against all types of governing entities, not just boards of education, for various reasons. But if you follow their patterns, it's interesting because it's always to extort and exhaust public tax dollars. They oppose any type of tax levy. What type of tax levies, you ask? Well, any tax issue, period. From park levies to jail levies to school district levies. These levies make better accommodations, and that's why folks like us are elected to serve on governing entities to make the best, or what we think is the best, fiscal opportunities and decisions for the entities in which we serve. They have also opposed every school district levy in the area, even a King's local school levy. This coalition also opposed the Cincinnati Preschool Promise Levy that just recently passed. They even threatened to spend countless resources to oppose this. To put last year's school levy campaigns in perspective, there were 13 total levies across our county and neighboring counties being presented, of which Winton Woods had our own on the ballot, to bring safer and secure facilities to our students and our communities, and COAST only focused on opposing 2 of these. One was the CPS levy, which was the preschool promise. 2 was the King's levy. King's local actually has a COAST member elected to their local board, so I think that's kind of where that stems from, which is very interesting. So now the coalition is trying to come after all of the other school districts whose levies passed last year, spending lots of resources, which should also be pointed out that these resources are largely taxpayer dollars that they've won in other settlements from other people that they've sued. COAST was paid more than $500,000, $675,000 to be exact, in 2014 from the City Council of the City of Cincinnati. This was paid out in an effort to get rid of them and all of their frivolous lawsuits. The leader of COAST, a Mr. Chris Finney, also opposed tax credits to a business that was relocating downtown, which was an effort that the city was trying to make happen. But in turn, he asked for tax credits over in Claremont County for his own law firm to stay where it was. So you see, what I'm trying to point out here this evening is that we live today constantly making sure we are making the correct and the fiscally responsible decisions for our local school district, while being chastised by coalitions who never get the carpet called on them or are held accountable. Winton Woods City School District conducts our business in a very transparent manner. I wish this coalition could do the same thing and be as transparent as we are. In conclusion, I just want our constituents to know that this board entity has no desire to settle with this frivolous coalition. I have no desire to put any of your hard-earned money to this coalition, and furthermore have no desire to shell out any taxpayer dime to this coalition who goes against everything they stand for. This board does have to follow the decision and guidelines given to us by our insurance carrier. However, if this were up to me, I wouldn't waste a single dime on this, and I hope we don't have to come to that point and settle with this coalition. So again, I just want to point out that it's such an oxymoron for what they stand for and are trying to extort money from our hard-earned taxpayers and our constituents in our district on the basis of something that isn't even legitimate, in my opinion. And I hope it does not have to come to a settlement where we have to shell out any of our taxpayers' dimes to this extortion and this frivolous lawsuit. Anything from you, Mr. Superintendent, this evening?
No.
Treasurer Seymour, anything from you,
You
sir?
just go Seymour.
And I don't see that we have a representative from any of our unions this evening, correct? Okay, so board colleagues, there is a need for executive session this evening to finalize the evaluations of both of the board's two employees.
All right, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss the matters involving employment of evaluation of performance for our treasurer and our superintendent.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Seymour, would you please call that vote, sir?
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Kuhn?
Aye.
Mrs. Ruggless?
Aye.
Mr. Birdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye. Okay, we will now move into executive session. We will have no further business after we come out this evening. So thank you to our partner at Waycross for filming tonight, and thank you to everyone for sticking around, and have a great evening.